Beer, a beloved beverage that's been enjoyed by humans for thousands of years. From ancient China, Egypt, and Mesopotamia, to the modern-day craft breweries that dot our cities, beer has been a staple of human culture and society. Our crew, Aiden, Brooklyn, and Ryan, set out to document the city of Calgary through the eyes of its local breweries. We wanted to capture the stories behind the beers, the passion of the brewers, and the unique flavors that make each brewery special. But then, a new story changed our course.
A federal tax increase on alcohol is set to kick in on April 1st. This increase will impact many local breweries across Calgary. The federal government says the tax will equate to a little less than 1% per can. The tax went up 2.4% in 2022, and this year it will go up by 6.3%. Since 2017, it's been a total increase of 18%. Even if the tax doesn't go through, beer, wine, and liquor prices are still likely to increase due to transportation and energy and packaging costs.
The Canadian government's recent announcement of a federal tax increase on alcohol has been met with criticism from many in the industry.
That's why today we Conservatives are calling on this Liberal government to cancel its massive 6.3% tax increase on beer.
To shed light on this issue, we spoke with Dan Allard, Madeleine McDonald, and Greg McLean. Let's have them introduce themselves, shall we?
Sure. I'm Greg McLean. I'm the Member of Parliament for Calgary Centre. Got elected in 2019. But let's go deja vu all over again. Obviously, something has not gone right. Value is created and destroyed in commercial markets. There's a lot of safe conservative ridings in Calgary, but I always thought Calgary Centre is where things are and where I live and where I want to represent. So it's a good riding.
Yeah, so I currently instruct in SAIT School of Hospitality and Tourism. Prior to that, I was a bar professional, so I created cocktail menus, created beer lists within the city of Calgary. I've done a lot of cocktail competitions, as well as advocacy work for women in industry. So that's kind of where I'm at, yeah.
So I'm the co-founder of Cold Garden, and my background is also in finance, academically anyway. And then got into brewing for a love of partying, straight up. So university, when I was studying the numbers, like maybe Greg at some point in his life, yeah, well, I was the guy throwing the big university parties, and my pal was the guy brewing beer.
Oh God. I honestly couldn't even tell you how many are, because they just keep popping up. Like, it's such a growing industry, you know, there could be probably, you know, maybe 100 breweries within or near, you know, Calgary. And Alberta, I know, has quite a few, or a land where we have a lot of barley production, so it makes sense that we're making lots of craft beer.
Oh, we've got to be, probably including contract breweries, we've got to be around 70 by now.
What do you think, Greg?
I was going to say 3 dozen, but obviously I'm about halfway there.
Yeah, I'd be curious. What do the numbers say?
So I'm just going, I couldn't find an exact number, but just going by justbeerapp.com, 65.
Okay, and I do qualify that by saying contract brewers included, because I think Greg's number is probably more accurate with brick and mortar places.
Okay.
Places that have their own factory, where contract brewers just, I shouldn't say just, they contract other facilities to brew their beer for them.
On the news, we learned that the new alcohol tax increase would be going up by 6.3%, and that it would affect breweries that produce at least 75,000 hectoliters annually. What does this mean, and do microbreweries even put out that amount of beer?
It's an automatic increase in the price. So you think about the tax on beer, this is an automatic 6.3% increase automatically on top of everything else that's going on in the economy.
Perfect.
It's called an escalator tax. So we actually put a motion this time on the floor of the House of Commons to cancel the planned increase on the beer and wine tax on April 1st. And in that case, we were effective because we got the other parties on board with this as well. So we actually won that motion.
The Bloc will support the Conservative motion.
And if the government wants other revenue, you know, we know there are companies like Loblaws, frankly, that can afford to pay more in tax.
So at that point in time, it was moral suasion only. And the government actually looked like they paid a little bit of attention to it and cut it back to a 2% increase this year.
No, so that, to give you a bit of a barometer, is something in the range of a large regional brewer that they would produce. So let's say in our neck of the woods, a village or a tool shed. Big Rock would be producing somewhere in the realm of 300,000 hectoliters. All the microbreweries with decent brands in our city around our size are producing around 3,000 to 5,000 hectoliters. So 75,000 hectoliters is a lot of beer. And yeah, that would be a regional producer like a Wild Rose, for example.
Let's break that down. This is a pint.
Yeah.
How many pints in a liter?
So we've got, if we're talking 20-ounce pints, you've got basically a pint and a half to 2 pints. So if we go on one brew day, we've got tanks that are 20 hectoliters. That'll produce 40 kegs, okay? And so 40 kegs every time that our brewers brew a beer. And that 40 kegs is, one keg has about 120 pints in a full keg, if you're talking 16-ounce pours. So, yeah, so if you want to math that out, you're the finance guy who practices more than I do, but 120 pints times 40 kegs, that's what every batch
4,800
produces.
pints.
There you go, 4,800 pints per batch, so you heard it from the pro.
That's right. From your experience of just getting to the grapevine, is anyone happy about this?
Well, I don't think so, no. I mean, I don't think any type of tax that affects consumer buying. We've seen it within grocery stores where there's the trickle-down effect of all of us having to pay more for groceries. So it's going to be the same when it comes to having to make different products, spirits, beer, whatever. Of course, that's going to affect the cost of the product itself being sold, which again is going to impact the customer. So, and then obviously impact even more in the restaurant setting, as we have to charge a premium based off of how we sell things within a restaurant to make profit.
Well, the response before we actually got to push back was pretty severe. Industry people in particular, when you talk to people that own restaurants, they go, this is going to impact us more and more and more. And it piles on a whole bunch of things that are also happening. The way they want to tax the tips that are coming through restaurants. Finding labor in these establishments is getting harder and harder. Service staff is getting harder and harder to find. So it is something that's going to continue to add to the problems associated with running establishments and therefore providing jobs in our economy.
For us as a microbrewery, the volumes that we're going through, it doesn't amount to a lot in terms of dollars and cents, but it truly was just like a kick in the teeth. Inflation is wild right now, right down to glassware. Supply chains, although they've normalized, prices have not come down. And it was just like, really? It's kind of that feeling, that gut check. You're like, come on. I fully appreciate how everybody started getting loud about the 6.3% because, yes, for the bigs, it does mean full departments might no longer get their budgets. It's a large number for them because their volumes are bigger. For us, it wasn't so much about the numbers, but it was important we rallied around that narrative because ultimately, if we do get big, it affects us, but it was just like stacking on top of other stuff. And it had to do with timing. From our perspective as little guys, it was really just about get a little bit of a temperature check on the country here, fellas, because it's tough right now.
With many breweries still struggling to recover from the effects of the pandemic, the timing of the new alcohol tax increase has been called into question. With inflation on the rise, it seems like this tax increase could not have come at a worse time.
Yeah, I think the impact of COVID is definitely something to think about as we, continue to reopen and people begin to feel more comfortable in these spaces. It's important to kind of respect that they're trying to recover.
Yeah, ultimately we've had one full year without risk of shutdowns in our province, and that means growth plans are just starting to get back into play. Nobody thought that inflation would, we all, if we all took Econ 101, these high spending moments always followed by inflationary periods, but we didn't think that would impact us in the way that it has. As I say, 40 to 60% in some of our grain costs is wild. And so yeah, it's all of that was a function of COVID, right? And so that, having just 1 year out of it and starting to figure out, okay, nice, we can start to figure out our growth plans again. And then it was like, well, hang on a second, we're just gonna add one more little thing.
Timing's bad. Think about it. It's an automatic escalator, so it was in a previous budget, and no matter what is on the horizon at that point in time, it was going to escalate. So it's good we pushed it back. But you think about everything that we came out of in the process. And by the way, this was one of the first bars I got to come to when we actually came through COVID because of your outdoor policy here.
Yeah, nice.
It was actually good to be here, but thanks for all that. So it is an escalating inflationary environment we're in at this point in time. Now there's 6.5% on top of that, or 6.3%. I think it was going to cause even more problems.
Now, let's take a break from the serious talk about the alcohol tax increase and travel back in time. Back to the 28th annual Beer Fest at Bottle Screw Bill's. This event is a celebration of the craft brewing community, and we had a chance to meet and chat with some of the people behind the brews. From hoppy IPAs to rich stouts, there was something for everyone at this festival. We spoke with brewers, beer enthusiasts, industry professionals, anyone who shared a passion for the art of brewing. It was such a joy to see the sense of community and camaraderie that exists within the Alberta craft brewing scene. So, go and grab a cold one and come join us as we take a closer look at this vibrant and exciting community.
So we're here at Bottle Screw Bill's for their annual Beer Fest. It is already packed in here. We got, at least 2 dozen breweries in here, maybe a little bit less, maybe more, who knows, but let's go check it out. I need to hear that again.
Are you ready to have your life change?
Yes, I am. Let's try this.
So it's done with real orange Pico black tea, and then we got Alberta beet sugar in there, some lemon lime extract, and then a neutral grain spirit. So it's not like diabetes in a can.
Aiden, give me the camera. You try this. What's your name, brother? Michael. So yeah, what's your favorite brewery that you've been to today? What's your favorite beer?
New Level, mainly because of the song New Level by A$AP Rocky. A$AP Ferg.
You gonna chug that for us?
No.
So we are here with Village Brewery. What kind of beers do you have for us today?
Yeah, so we have a NEPA, New England IPA. We have a New Zealand Pale Ale, a hyper-local IPA, and then a Duffel, so it's a chili-type dark beer.
That's the one I need to try. That is good. This guy's unreal. I don't know his name, but he's got the holder. What's your name, brother?
You're kind of indispensable without the spins.
So how are you enjoying your time today or what?
Yeah, it's a great time and it's little expense. Craft beers are a fucking energy for people to express themselves. And I think there's a lot of community that ties into it. And like all these breweries here, they're fantastic. They're all individual companies running individual marketing programs, reaching out to communities, and they're part of the communities. And I think that's what's so important about craft beer.
Our man Spencer really made us think with that last point. Why are microbreweries so important to their customers and their communities? Let's see what Dan, Greg, and Madeline think.
It's a good taste of beer. I mean, we grew up on basic beer. You think when we were back at university, you had a selection of 3 brewers in Canada at the time. And it was more or less just, here's your selections. And once you kind of develop a palate for better beer, you like going to these places. Different tastes, and the atmosphere is always really good too. You put together something that's, an experience to be at as well, which is really nice.
I think the sense of, eating and drinking local has been very, very prevalent recently. doing that with your beer choices as well, trying to try some new things, experiment. There's lots of different cool things that people are doing that are very unique to Alberta. So it makes it a really interesting place to kind of, taste different types of beer.
Yeah, I think it's important for keeping funds within our regions. And I think that's what you've seen, this global shift to microbreweries, because everybody realized in our particular circumstances in Canada with those 3 breweries owning, all of the breweries within our country, a lot of those funds would just be pumped out to shareholders and never seen within the local economies. So now we get, 70-ish breweries all based in one city, and they're all, basically mom and pop businesses that are working with other independent businesses. So it fosters a really great economic community, and it's true across the board. Anywhere you travel, you're seeing this blow up, and it's because governments have realized it's a little bit of a push for local economies and labor markets if we have them within our own walls.
I'll amplify. When we're doing the right thing, as the opposition was in this case, we thought we were doing the right thing. We always think we're doing the right thing for consumers, or else we wouldn't be pursuing it. Make sure you amplify that, because the more support we get, the more you show up. And actually, social media is a good tool in that respect. It's a bad tool in some other respects when you get misinformation, but layer on and go, yes, this is going to hurt us, this is why, and be succinct about it, be polite and say this is something the government needs to look at and review, and this is going to be the impact on our businesses, this is going to be the impact on our lives. And make sure that that's understood. It's not just coming from partisan voices, if you will, but it's actually coming from the people on the street. That helps a lot.
Throughout our journey, we've explored the world of craft brewing in Calgary and learned about the challenges and opportunities facing these local breweries. We've discovered that the alcohol tax increase, initially set to go to 6.3%, faced public and political pushback and was temporarily set to 2%. While the 75,000 hectoliter benchmark won't affect most of our local breweries, rising inflation and supply chain issues will still increase the costs. But despite these obstacles, the brewers we've met are determined to survive and thrive, with their customers, communities, and supporters continuing to speak up for them and recognizing the important roles that they play within our culture and economies. Throughout it all, we've learned that craft brewing is so much more than just a drink. It's about creativity, passion, community, sustainability. It's about gathering together with friends and family to enjoy unique and flavorful brews, all while supporting local businesses and creating meaningful connections. So let's raise our glasses and give cheers to a bright and flavorful future for Calgary's craft beer industry.
Decided to randomly be like, hey, how about we just fuck the little guys again?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. But hopefully this documentary goes throughout the world and helps.
Yeah, I love that. Well, you know where it could really use it is Northern Ireland. That place is like behind by 2 decades. They issue liquor licenses like they're taxi plates. There's only a limited amount. Yeah, like so it's like if you gotta buy one, like it's the rights to one because of this archaic law in like 1905. They were worried about the Irish people getting too drunk, so they said there's a limited amount of pubs that will allow ever.
Right.
And it's still that way. So you got to pay like 300,000 local currency just to be able to have a pub, let alone the pub itself.
Yeah.